Hello guys and welcome to Controls Hero. Today is my first Metasys tutorial and it will be about interlocks. Very useful, simple, but a powerful tool in the Johnson Controls Metasys system. I will start with a very simple example just to show you how they work, and then I will start creating more complex interlocks. So let's get started. Okay, so here I'm in Metasys 9.0 and I have two controllers, one for an air handler and the other for a few exhaust fans. So let's say that I want to start my exhaust fan 1 whenever the air handler gets enabled. So how can we do that? With a very basic interlock. So let's start by creating an interlock. Okay, so I like to create a programming folder so I can have all my stuff in here. And I also created already a folder with the name exhaust fans, and I want to insert my interlock right there. So I'm just going to go to insert object, and then I want to look for interlock next. And here is my destination. Where do I want to put my interlock? Since I already highlighted from the beginning my exhaust fan, I don't have to do anything unless I change my mind. I still want to do this folder. Go next. And let's give it a name. Just gonna use a short name, exhaust fan interlock. Next, I can give it a description. And we'll leave everything the same. State text, false and true. Those are my units. That's 90% of the time I use this, so I'll just leave it like that. And if you noticed, if I go next, it's kind of a summary and then you can finish. But we're not done yet. So let's go back. And if you noticed, we have two other more tabs. The middle tab, interlock definition, is where you define what conditions will trigger your interlock. In this case, the air handler system enable. The action tables allows you to execute certain commands whenever the interlock definition becomes true. In this case, what's the action? We want to start our exhaust fan. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. I'm gonna go to my interlock definition. I'm gonna hit the plus sign. And I'm going to look for my system enable on my air handler. This right here. Click OK. And okay, so we want our present value. You can pick other attributes of the system enable, but simple enough is present value. And we want whenever present value equals enable, not disable. Whenever our present value equals enable, we want to start our fan. So let's go to action table, and then let's look for our fan. I'll explain all these other features. But let's just start by looking at our true conditions. So whenever my interlock definition becomes true, let's see, we want to start our fan. So let's look for our fan, start stop. Right here. Okay. And notice that my fan was added under true and false condition, and this is because this box is already checked and we cannot uncheck it right now. I'll show you later how to do this. So whenever it's true, I want my fan to start. So basically I just pick my command start, and let's say that I want it to start 10 seconds after my system is enabled. So you can add a delay. This is in seconds. And whenever the system enable is disabled, we want to stop the fan. That's by default it picked stop, and we want to do it right away, so no delay. So let's just go last, finish. Okay, so now I have created my interlock, which is right here, and I'm just gonna drag the folder over so I can see my interlock state. Remember that has the units of false and true. So right now it's false because my system enable is disabled. So let's enable my system, and we should expect my exhaust fan to start 10 seconds after. So let's do that. Right click command. I'm just gonna set it to enable, send, And you can see that it's gonna go to true right away, true, enabled, and after about 10 seconds, there's some lagging. You'll see that it's gonna get a start command. All right, start command. If we disable it, we expect our fan to go to stop right away because we didn't put an off delay. So let's disable it, and we should see our interlock going to false right away along with my exhaust fan start. So let's disable false, and it should go stop. So there you go. You just know how to create your very basic interlock definition to do a simple start stop of an exhaust fan. So now let's start and do a more complex interlock. Okay, so let's reuse our existing interlock. So I'm just gonna drag it over here and just gonna drag this up, and I don't want to change the name or description, but let's say that we want to add an extra condition. Let's say that we want to start our fan whenever the system is enabled, and let's say our smoke detector is not in alarm. So how can we do this? I can go to edit, and you can see that there's an and here, and or in complex. So let's do the and, because we want to do to compare two inputs. So let's go ahead and I can do it two ways. If I hit the plus sign, I can pick my supply air smoke detector, and our smoke detector equals not in alarm. So let's say normal equals normal, or we can say not equal alarm, so not in alarm. So you can play around with the values. So that's one way. If let's say, let me delete this second option. I'm just gonna click on it and click the negative sign. You can always take out objects or points. So the other way to do it is just to expand your air handler. You can just drag over the points that you want. So let's say I can do control click or shift and just drag them over. So yeah, you can see that you can drag add multiple points. So let's delete this guy. And okay, so our system enable equals enable, and our smoke alarm not equal alarm. And let's save that. And let's go down and start simulating. Okay, so in order to start my fan, two conditions must happen. And this is a match all or a and condition. So this and this must be true. So first one, system enable must equal enable. So let's enable that. Right click command, set it to enable. So that's true. My second condition that must match should be not in alarm. So we are actually in alarm. So let me right click command. And since this is a hardware point, I'm just going to put it out of service. I'm just going to set it to normal. And my interlock should be true now. And after my 10 seconds right here, delay, we should see our fan start stop starting. All right, there you go. It works. So now going back to my definition. So let's put our smoke alarm to normal, back to normal in service. So both of the conditions are not gonna match. So false, and my fan stops right away. Okay, so for my third example, let's do something more interesting. So let's say I'm gonna edit my interlock that I wanna use an OR. So I'm gonna take out my smoke alarm, and let's say that whenever my system is enabled and my outside air temperature, I'm just gonna drag it over, it's greater than, let's say, 72 degrees. It's not equal, it's equal right here, but let's say I want it to be greater than 72. I can even put a differential. Let's put a 1. Let's click save. And I actually did an OR. So the OR, it means that either or of these conditions are true, my interlock is gonna be true. Either or. So, or both. So right now I have my system enable, so let's disable it. So I want to start with my interlock on false. And it's false. So let's see what's my outside error. Okay, it's actually 68 degrees. So yeah, none of these conditions are being met, so it's false. And for my action table, let's get more creative. So I'm gonna maximize this. And let's say that I wanna start multiple fans. I'm gonna go look for my fan 2. And notice that I told you about this little check mark. Now we can uncheck it. So if I uncheck it, it says add new items to all conditions. All conditions, we only have 2 conditions, true and false. So if I uncheck this, let's say that I want to add my second exhaust fan here. It only adds this to my true condition, not to the false. So let's delete that. So most of the time I use both conditions, so I like to keep this checked. So let's add this again. And you can see that exhaust fan 2 was added on top and bottom. So I want to start my exhaust fan 2. And let's say my exhaust fan 3 as well. And let's do one more. Exhaust fan 4. And I want to do a start command. A start command. And also exhaust fan 4 has a speed, so let's do that as well. This is a little different. So since it's an analog value, you can actually choose a value. So let's do 30% speed. And we can delay all this. So let's say we want to start exhaust fan 1 right away. Second exhaust fan after 5 seconds. This next one after 10. After 15, and this one same at the same time as the start stop, so 15 seconds. So let's save that. And one more thing I do want to mention is the priorities. Let me go back to edit. When I do interlocks, I usually do a different priority, not 16. 16 is when you adjust a point. I like to do 14. So that's 15. I use it for scheduling. So the next one over is 14 application, which is, I consider that as my programming in Metasys. So you can see that all of them change to 14. If I do 13, all to 13. So you can also pick individual priorities if you uncheck this little box. So when you start creating more complex interlocks, which at some point I will be doing more interesting tutorials on this. So, but for now, let's check that and keep them as 14. And let's save it. Now to recap, we want to start 4 exhaust fans at different time. One of them has a speed of 30. And when the conditions are false, we want to stop all of them right away. So let's simulate this. As you know, we're doing an OR in my interlock definition, so match any. So let's start by doing my outside error. Let's simulate my outside error. So I'm gonna right click command, and I want to adjust it to 73, just above my set point condition. And I'm gonna send the command. You'll see that my interlock will be true. My fan 1 started right away. After 5 seconds, my other fan, which is right here under the air handler, third fan, and then fourth fan should start the 15 seconds with 30% command. So this happens so quick. So now let's put my outsider back to 70, whatever number it was. So it's gonna go to false. So everything should stop right away, and I think it did. 2 here, exhaust fan 4, and my exhaust fan speed. Okay, yeah, it just took a little while. So yeah, that's one condition. Now the other way to trigger this is with my system enable, right? Because it's an or, either or. So let's do that. Enable. All right, true. Fan 1 start, fan 2 start, fan 3 start, fan 4 and its speed start. Yeah, I guess Metasys lags a little bit because my action table shows that it should be adjusted. See, now it's 30. Now for my last example, I want to do something a little bit more complex. So let me clean this up. All right, so I have this little sequence. I just made it up. So it says, turn on exhaust fan 1 at 50% speed for 1 minute when the following conditions occur. The air handler unit system is enabled, there is no smoke alarm, and either the outside air temperature is greater than 70 degrees or the outside air humidity is below 50%. So notice that we have ands and we have ors, and we want to turn on the fan for 1 minute, so it's a bit complex. So how can we do this sequence? So the only way will be to use a complex logic. So an interlock allows you to do that. So when you pick complex, you have a logic equation, and there's some notes right here. When you click on it, it shows you a little star or asterisk, which equals and, and the plus sign equals or. So it allows you to write a logical equation. So let's get started. So the actions that we want to do is to turn on the exhaust fan at 50% for 1 minute. So this is gonna be done. All these sentences is gonna be done under action tables. That's the action that we want to do. So for the rest of the stuff, let's say we want the system enable to the air handler system enable to be enabled. So we're just gonna pick that up, drag it over. There is no smoke alarm. Okay, let's bring the smoke alarm. I'm just gonna bring all the points to make it simpler, and then we start doing the logical equation. Okay, let's start by defining the values for each point. So the system enable must be enable. Okay, system enable must equal enable, right? There is no smoke alarm. Okay, so we can say not equal to alarm, right? And either outside air greater than 70 degrees. Okay, my outside air, we want it greater than 70 degrees. And or the outside air humidity below 50. So let's do less than 50% relative humidity, right? And obviously, if I try to save, it's going to give me an error, invalid equation. Okay, so let's start writing the equation. So the first sentence here, the air handler system is enabled, which is right there. There is no smoke alarm. So basically this is an and there is no smoke alarm, right? So let's start by doing this sentence. So, and you see that every item has a number. So I want to do the first one, air handler enable and no smoke alarm. So air handler enable and no smoke alarm. So 1 and 2. So I will do 1 star because that's an and the number 2, 1 and 2. But it's not that simple. So we have a second and. So I'm gonna do that. And either when you see the word either is like an or, either the outside air temperature is greater than this or the humidity less below than that. So in this case, you know, I need to use parentheses because we want these both conditions to be true and either or. So I'm gonna open a parenthesis, actually and close it, and inside this parenthesis we want to have an or. So we know that a temperature or humidity. So I'm gonna do 3 or 4. So I'm gonna do 3, and you know that my OR is a plus, so plus 4. And basically that's your equation. If my system is, number 1 is enable, and number 2 is true, which true means not equal to alarm, and either 3 or 4 are true, let's save that. All right, so we got our second paragraph defined. So now the other part is to turn on my exhaust fan at 50% speed for 1 minute. So that must be done under action table. So I'm gonna drag this down right here in this corner. And okay, so I'm gonna look for my exhaust fan. First I'm gonna edit right here. I'm gonna pick both of them, drag them over. And notice that we have both start, stop, and speed on both true and false. We don't want that in this case. So let me back up a little bit. I'm gonna select all of them. Go delete them. Same thing here. I wanna do it again. So that's why sometimes you want to uncheck this. So let me drag this over. So I only want them on this side, and I'll explain why. And we want to give it a start command and adjust my speed to 50%. 50%. And then for 1 minute. So after 1 minute, we want to stop the fan and put it back at 0%. So this is the tricky part. You gotta think about it for a second. So let me do it and I'll explain you. So I'm gonna drag the points one more time. So you can do it twice or as many times as you wish. So after 60 seconds delay, I actually want to command it to stop and the speed to 0. And if you want to go a little further, you can add them again. And let's say that at 62 seconds, I want to release the priority 14, because otherwise it will stay there. So instead of commanding it to something, I'm just gonna release my priority for 14. And same thing for this. And there you have it. Now let's give it a try. Let's test it really quick. So, okay. Our interlock is disabled right now. So we have our definitions here. So our system should be enabled. System is enabled. And number two is no alarm. We have an alarm. So let's command that to out of service and normal. So no alarm. And either 3 or 4 must be true. So 3 or 4. Outside air is not greater than 70. It's actually 70. And outside air humidity it's not less than 50%. So let's give that a try. So I'm going to adjust that to 45, which is less than 55%. It's gonna go to true. My fan started. My speed should start. There you go. And let's wait for a minute. And if I right click on my fan, you can see double clicking here that we have a priority of 14. There you go. It's been a minute. It stopped. And let's see if we have any priorities. No priorities, because the priorities were released. Alright, so this is the end of my Metasys Interlock tutorial. It took me much longer than I expected, but I really wanted to cover as much as possible. Interlocks are very useful and you can get very creative with them, but also be very careful and always test your logic. So guys, if you think this video tutorial was helpful, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know every time I post a new video. Till the next time, thank you very much.